This 911 Strong podcast is brought to you by our partners at the Police Credit Union of California.
As a financial institution founded by law enforcement for law enforcement and their families over 65 years ago, they have the experience and understanding to help you with all your financial needs,
including exclusive products designed specifically for law enforcement professionals. To become a member today, visit thepolicecu.org. That's the police, the letter C, and the letter U.org.
Or call 800-222-1391 and tell them you heard about them from the 911 Strong podcast. Hey friends, it's Aram, Choe, and Kristen Jauregui. Jauregui. Yeah, it's inside joke. We had a discussion with someone that we brought on later. But hey, on this episode, we wanted to talk about something that all of us experience, not just cops, but all of us. Our finances. We talk about, wanting to keep up with the Joneses. Some of our new cops want to keep up with cops that have been around a while. And then, everything from financial planning as a new cop to looking forward to retirement as an OG cop. But this one's going to be interesting because it's something we can all relate to, I think.
Definitely. Yep.
All right. Stand by. The next episode of the 911 Strong podcast starts
right now. Right now.
Station to all units.
Prepare to copy.
You're listening to the 911 Strong podcast.
Don't act like I never told you.
With Aram and Kristen, bringing you stimulating discussion.
No, I like the sound of that.
An entertaining conversation.
And now, here's Kristen and Aram.
Hey friends, welcome back to the 911 Strong podcast. Joining me as always is my dear friend Kristen.
Hey. Are we doing this now? We're making fun of me?
No, but you do this on every episode, and I think how you make your stickers that you sell, the dispatcher stickers.
Yeah,
we need to get someone to make a caricature picture of you with a headset on a sticker with a bubble that says "Hey."
Do I really say "Hey" every single time?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, guys.
That's your tagline. I thought you were aware of that. That's your tagline.
No, I had no idea I was doing that. I
think
it's
great.
Like saying "like" all the time.
Yeah, but
you don't realize I do though.
Hey.
Okay, sorry.
Do it with.
I'll probably keep doing it, not even noticing though.
No, I like it.
It is what it is.
Everybody has to have a tagline. I'm jealous that you have yours. I don't have mine, so whatever. Kristen's a pro. I'm not.
I don't know. You do a lot of random things though.
Yeah. Speaking of pros, we're going to try to get the CEO of the Police Credit Union on this conference call with us, on a conference call with us later on, because he's the really expert in the subject matter we're going to be talking about right now, which is finances. And I'm like, wow, what does finances have to do with police? We're a police podcast. Please talk about police stuff. Well, it is police stuff because cops are either really good at finances or really bad. And I'm going to share with you a personal story. So I've been a cop a long time. I was a cop before I ever met my wife and before we even had families. And I went from selling ladies' shoes at the Broadway in Pasadena. Does Broadway even still exist? Or it's Macy's now? Yeah, it's Macy's. So it's a department store, and I was assigned to the ladies' shoe section in Pasadena, right on Colorado Boulevard. Very popular, busy place where my friends hung out on Friday nights. And here they would go into the mall. Hey, what's up, Al Bundy? Exactly what Kristen did. But I was making what? I don't know, $10 an hour. I don't remember. But it was a job, right?
Yeah.
I went from there to and I did that because it made sense for school, and I knew I wanted to be a police officer, and I needed the time. I couldn't have a lockdown career. So I went from that to becoming a full-fledged police officer. They paid me while I was going to the academy. They paid me after the academy. So I went from these piddly paychecks that had 3 digits to 4-digit paychecks. I'm like, wow. Yeah. And I was single. Get this, my rent was $400 a month.
I think that was probably where mine was at too.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So what did I do? The first thing I did was I bought a car.
Me too.
What did you get?
A Toyota Celica.
Okay.
The little hatchback with the spoiler.
Yeah. So you're sensible. You got a reliable car.
I got a fun little sports car. Yeah.
I got a fun little sports car too. Right around that time, there was a movie with Val Kilmer called The Saint. He was like this Bruce Wayne type guy that drove a Volvo S80 sports car, or 60, or one of the S versions. So I went out and I said, I want a Volvo S40. It's a 4-door sedan. sensible, right? It was a touring car. But I said, I'll never have this opportunity again. I'm going to custom order it from the company. So I got the touring package, but I also got the sports package. I couldn't decide which one I wanted. So I said, you know what? Can you combine both? I want the spoiler. I want the touring package, for, the leather and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I got this car thinking I'm Mr. Hotshot now. I'm like, I have no place to drive this car to. So I got Laker season tickets. I got Dodger season tickets. I'm Mr. Worldwide. I'm Pitbull before Pitbull. But I could do those things.
Gosh.
And here's where I got in trouble. I learned to like it. I liked being able to spend money and not be responsible or accountable to anybody else. Right.
Yeah.
And I got used to this lifestyle. I was a cop for about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years living this lifestyle before I met my wife. And then I meet my wife. And
sounds like Danny's story too. He had a lot of money saved up. It was
that
responsible
Mustang,
with it.
that
And
Mustang was
he had
Jeep
his
was
Mustang,
nice.
his Jeep. Yeah.
But you don't realize how fast, like we got married, from the time I met Liz to the time we got married was a year. I don't know if you knew
you
that.
guys move forward quickly.
Yeah. And before our wedding, we were paying for this wedding too. I mean, my mom, our parents helped a lot, but anyways, you have to buy a ring and all this stuff. So I'm already spending money, and I'm like, we have to live somewhere. So we bought a house. We closed escrow a week before our wedding day, and our families were very traditional, so I couldn't live with Liz.
Mm-hmm.
Liz got to live in this house, so I'm paying a mortgage on this house, the down payment, all that stuff that we need to come up with. And quickly, my lifestyle changed. I couldn't buy season tickets anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We needed more sensible. She needed a car. She was on the lease. She had an F-150. And she had to turn it in. I'm like, well, we're not going to lease the car. We're going to buy a car. So I bought her a car, a Hyundai Santa Fe. And so I'm thinking, okay, we shotgunned this really fast, right? In 1 year, we became homeowners, married, and 2 cars. The only thing missing were kids.
Mm-hmm.
I had never had that much debt in my life. So I had no idea what my impact would be. I had no idea what property taxes were.
Mm-hmm.
What registration costs on multiple cars. So I got myself in trouble pretty quick, but we made it. All I had to do was work extra hours, adjust some things, and we were able to make it. We kept afloat. But here was the problem: the things you can't control, you can't control.
Right.
So we got in trouble. We put ourselves in a position. So when one of these things happened where we couldn't control things, like the recession and the housing market crash, we got ourselves into a situation where we got a mortgage that was called I don't even remember the adjustable rate mortgages, because back then interest rates were.
We didn't have a house at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea, back in the early 2000s, interest rates were considered good if they were under 10%.
Oh 10%. My gosh.
Yeah. So we were at a 7.5%. I had excellent credit, so we were at a 7.5% interest rate, mortgage rate, which, by the way, is more than double what rates are right now, and rates are higher than they have been in a few years.
Yeah.
So all you new people buying houses, you have no idea what we had to pay for our mortgages back then. So affordability was a lot less. So ours, with the popular mortgage back then, if you wanted a low rate, was if you wanted 7.5, you had to get an adjustable rate mortgage. They're like, hey, the economy is good. You'll never have to worry about this rate adjusting. And if it does adjust, it'll just go lower. Within 3 or 4 years, the economy tanks. I'm not going to say who the president was at the time, but the economy tanks. And the banks still have to make their money. So what do? They don't adjusted their rates up. We went from 7.5% to 11.5%. I couldn't afford that mortgage. Yeah. I was like, whoa, we're going to have to make adjustments again. Now we're eating top ramen and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every night. And we had a few kids already. Or 2 kids. Yeah, we had 2. Yeah, we had 2 kids at the time, and a trailer. We were camping a lot, and we're like, oh, something's going to have to change. My wife started couponing.
Oh, yeah. That's when the big couponing phase came up. Yeah.
So I know I've rambled on long enough, but long story short, we lost that house. We made the tough decision to short sale, and we rented for a few years and got back in the game. And we learned those important lessons along the way. And now we're financially secure because we kind of had to go through that down period to figure out where we never want to be there again.
Yeah. That was a hard time.
What about you guys? Did you guys ever go through any?
We didn't go through that. I don't want to say we capitalized, but we kind of did when the recession hit, because that's when we bought a house. Instead, we had a little bit longer dating period. And when we were living together, obviously we weren't married. So when we filed for taxes, Danny made a considerable amount. So he got taxed a lot for it.
Right.
And because we were out dating and living life like nothing mattered, and we only had Chaselin at the time, we kind of went through our savings. So we didn't think about it because on my end of it, I was getting child support and I was getting the child tax credit and all that stuff. I never had to pay taxes.
Right. So
when he got dinged and we were married without being married, basically, I'm like, oh crap. Now like we owe all this money for that. And so it was a really, really big chunk of money that he owed. And like, well, this isn't going to happen anymore. So we were hurting that way. And then we decided to get married. So we're saving up for other things. And that's what, I guess it isn't as dramatic as a story as your guys' whatsoever, but we wanted a really nice wedding in a winery area. And then my dream was always to go to Bora Bora for our honeymoon. And so we really had to like save. So it was one of those things like, hey, we can't go out and do all these other things. Like we have to put our money where it's needed. And so we did that. And then I was pregnant with Sadie, and the tax season came around again and we got dinged. And we're like, we really need to own a property, like really bad. And it just so happened to be when the recession was going. So we basically got a house out by in San Bernardino County for like half the price.
Right.
So we really lucked out that way. And as California, the prices started going up and we made money off of it. And we ended up selling that house and got a better one that's more well suited for us. But yeah, in the beginning, I think you just don't realize when you're so young as an officer or even a dispatcher, we make a decent amount of money compared to what I was doing before, which was being
dancing at the local club.
Yes. Yeah. I don't even know what my name was. Casper. I don't know. But anyways,
Casper.
So Casper, that white,
welcome Casper to the stage.
Yeah. That white girl, she glows up there. No lights are needed. But I'm like translucent. Anyways. So, but I lost my train of thought. Geez. No, I was not doing that. I was a bagger at Vaughn's and not making
whatever you want to call it.
Very much money.
That's a story you told your parents. That's fine.
Taking out bags for snooty people who didn't want to carry one bag to their car. But when I got this job, I was like, holy crud, look at all this extra money, and didn't think about saving or anything like that. I didn't wait till I was off of probation before I bought my car.
Mm-hmm.
I just went for it and, got my own apartment and all those things. And, you're just living the life. And then at some point adulthood kicks in and you realize being in debt and having all this credit is not.
It never really stops, right? I mean, like people think the more money you make, the more secure you are. But in my experience, the more money you make, the more things you have.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you make enough money to afford to live in a $600,000 house, you're probably going to do it, right? You're going to, you work hard. So you feel like you deserve to live in a nicer neighborhood and a nicer house. You have a big family, so you needed a bigger house.
Mm-hmm.
It just wouldn't make sense to try to squeeze into a 2-bedroom house, that's a third of the size. Yeah. And, but some people do because that's their circumstances. That's that's what they can afford.
Right.
And I think a lot of times when you have a smaller income, you live a lot more within your means.
Yes.
And people that get into our profession and they realize they were making better money than they ever had before, that's when they get in trouble and they lose that focus and they live out of their means. And that's where a lot of us get in trouble. Mm-hmm. So, but the other influences there is not just the amount of money you make, it's the culture within the police department, right?
Yeah.
Who are the ones at the river? Who are the ones? It's all cops and firefighters, right?
Yeah.
And firefighters, because they let you know.
Yeah.
They tell you what they are on the boats, on their trucks.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's a constant joke, guys. But and you want to do that. But I mean, some people go balls to the wall and they get all that stuff right away. And if they could go for it, or they've saved, some of them are very responsible and they've saved for all of these things and it's good. And then there's others that just put it on credit. And then those are some of those ones that are like scrambling for overtime because they depend on the overtime. They don't depend on their salary.
Right. And the overtime isn't always there.
No, it fluctuates. It definitely fluctuates. And
that's where they get in trouble.
Yeah, you can't depend on the overtime because sometimes it does dry up. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. So, yeah.
That's why I think it's important to have these lessons. Like I look back at school. Did you have to take algebra in high school?
I think so. It was a painful memory. I think I forgot about it.
Yeah. And do you do algebra now?
No, I don't do like anything.
Do you know math. Any adult, even in accounting, people in accounting that use algebra today?
I don't know anybody in accounting.
Yeah, you do. We know Eddie Young.
Well, yes, I know Eddie now.
Well,
that's true. I'd have to ask Eddie. I suck at math, guys. I suck at it.
So do I. I'm a broken Asian. But maybe it's because I'm Asian. I know a lot more people in accounting. And they don't do math. You know what they do? They plug the numbers. They're data entry guys. They put numbers in a computer program and the program does math for them. And I ran off on a tangent. I'm just saying algebra is useless unless you're going to be in that subject field.
Yeah.
Instead, what I think would have been more beneficial in high school instead of algebra was a class to show people how to write checks, how to balance checkbooks, how to budget, how to do financial planning, how to live within your means. That, to me, is much more valuable than learning algebra.
Yeah, that's a better life skill to know.
Yeah. So it didn't happen. Sure. It doesn't exist. And until it does, we're doing Common Core or whatever.
Yeah, that's so horrible.
But so a lot of our people, if you've been listening for any amount of time, we're sponsored by the Police Credit Union of California. They are the only financial institution in California that caters specifically to the entire state's law enforcement population and their families. I think there's a smaller police credit union. Like I think there's the LAPD credit union.
CHP.
They're great. They're great. And I think, I take it back. CHP does do the entire state, but like LA Police Credit Union, I think you have to be in LA and then there's POPA. I think you have to be in the county. But I'm not being biased. We get a lot of offers for sponsorship on our show and we turn down some, but we felt this one made sense because when we had our discussions with these people, we immediately were attracted to the heart they had for law enforcement. So it's good to know that not that fact that they're just our sponsor, but they have a lot of products out there, including financial planning products. So if you're listening to this and you're a young cop, a dispatcher, records clerk, jailer, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to go through the mistakes Aram and Kristen went through. Maybe Kristen didn't make a mistake. I just put her in there, but I don't want to make a mistake.
But you never know. You never know what's going to happen with our economy these days. Things are going kind of crazy, and it's better to be safe than sorry to do your homework. And, I'm still not that much. I leave a lot of stuff to Danny, but anyways, off on a tangent. It's better to do your homework and be knowledgeable on these things and really look into it. And I think what Eddie has done with this company is amazing. And it's even better, I think, because he has skin in the game. He's not just a normal, like, run of your mill bank that's just trying to get you to like join in with them. Like, there's a bunch of heart and a story behind it and everything else. And I'm excited to have him on and really go further in depth with what he has to offer.
Yeah, he's going to come on very shortly here. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And, when we were growing up, I didn't have access to Google I couldn't Google mortgage rates and compare banks. I went off of what people said, hey, give me a bit of I know this person, give them a call. And there was no Yelp review. I didn't know what I was getting into, but now if you're a person just getting on your feet, you have that ability. So why not log on to something that caters to people specifically in this business and see what these lessons are? Sign up for some of the planning classes. They're completely free if you're a member. But let's see if we can get Eddie on right now and talk a little bit more of these things. So we're going to take a short little break, and when we return, we'll have Eddie Young, the CEO of the Police Credit Union of California. Be right back.
Bye.
Hey, friends, we're back on the 911 Strong podcast. Joining us now is the CEO of the Police Credit Union of California. And if you've been listening to our show for any length of time, you know that our title sponsor is, in fact, the Police Credit Union. So we're excited to have the CEO of the Police Credit Union, Eddie Young. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you very much, Aram.
We know you're very, very busy, and we thank you for taking time out. This episode, we're talking about some of the pitfalls and financial pitfalls, especially that officers and young officer families get into. And we've discussed some various topics, but you're an expert in this field, and not just the field of finances, but specifically law enforcement finances, because your bank caters specifically to law enforcement. So we're excited to hear what you have to say. If you don't mind, we'd like to ask you a couple of questions.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to go first. You guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, ignore me. Okay. So fantastic. It's so nice to have you on our show, Eddie, and be able to really dive a little bit deeper about the credit union and everything that you guys have to give for law enforcement. So I'm just going to ask the most basic question that there is. Like, we all have the big banks out there, the Chases, Wells Fargo, B of A, Bank of America, and others, but we really don't hear too much about credit unions. So can you kind of dive a little bit deeper about what a credit union is and how it differs from a bank?
Sure. One of the first things that came to my mind when you asked that question is, I'm sure all of us have watched that James Stewart movie during Christmas, right? It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that movie, James Stewart runs a thrift and loan. So think of it in that concept. So a credit union is a cooperative. People that share a common bond. So in our case, law enforcement, they become members. And so this cooperative formed 69 years ago, in our case, is really a not-for-profit institution. There is one big difference, big difference. Banks are owned by stockholders. In our case, as a credit union, we're owned by every single member. So every single member has one vote. That's it. And so whatever profits that are generated, it really gets plowed back into our cooperative. In other words, for the benefit of our membership. And so that is one huge distinct difference. There's a second difference. And that second difference is board of directors at banks also come from other corporate, positions, like CEOs. They're paid a pretty hefty sum for their participation. Our board is vastly different. Our board comes from, guess what? Our same membership, but they are volunteers. They're not paid. So there's a huge difference. It kind of speaks to that, all for our membership philosophy.
So the people making decisions for the bank, the board, they're us, right? So they're not influenced by corporations or other special interests. They're influenced by our families and friends.
Absolutely. So in our case, we have a 7-member board, and all 7 members are either active or retired police officers.
Wow.
So so they understand the dynamics of what being a police officer is like, but they also have professional guidance. Me, right? Because certainly my background was not in law enforcement. My background, actually, I started out in accounting, and next thing you know, I became the CEO of a banking institution. But with both sides, one side, the board side, having full understanding of what it's like, living the life of a law enforcement personnel, coupled with a professional staff on the operational side, I think that makes for a really, really powerful combination.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's amazing. And I like that. And so to just further touch on it just a little bit more and to give a little bit more detail, what would you say separates this police credit union from the other credit unions that are out there in California?
That's a great question. Over the years, there certainly has been a lot of transformation within the credit union industry. And I'm sure when you Google credit unions in your area, there's probably a lot of names that pops up. But what has happened with the industry compared to us specifically, our credit union, is one word: exclusivity. We serve exclusively law enforcement active law enforcement, retired law enforcement, and all personnel, civilian personnel that works within all the law enforcement agencies and their family members. Because credit unions, other credit unions, what they have done is they have kind of adopted pretty much the similar path as what some of the community banks have done. And basically, hey, as long as you live around here, as long as you want to open an account, come on in. For us, it's a far more restrictive membership where we allow only law enforcement. And in this case, for us, it's any law enforcement personnel, retired, as well as the family members and the civilian workforce of those agencies within the entire state of California. So we're very proud that we have been able to open up that, not just membership, but the vast services that we have for many years been offering only to the 9 San Francisco Bay Area County law enforcement personnel. But we have now been offering that to the entire state. So that is a huge, not just a milestone for us, but I think that it is a huge advantage for law enforcement, the law enforcement community in the state of California.
Yeah, I did some research about that because there is something to say about exclusivity. Not that we're trying to say that other people are excluded, but it's a profession where we have unique challenges and we face unique responsibilities. And one of those things that's unique in our profession is that the mortality rate is something we really think about. Now, for me, my wife stays at home and I have 4 children and I have a very realistic, I don't want to say expectation, but I know I'm very grounded in the fact that I know that I could die one day. My mortgage, my car loans, all those things, I kind of worry, am I going to leave that debt to my family? And I saw on your site, the police credit union site, that there's a program called the End of Watch Debt Forgiveness Program. Can you elaborate more about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
That is one program that I am extremely proud of. And this is something that we've been working on for quite some time. And finally, we've been able to launch this a couple of years ago. And you're right. What you've just said earlier, the profession that you're in is a very high risk profession compared to an accountant, right? When an accountant, the most dangerous thing that they would ever encounter is probably a paper cut. For you, for folks in the law enforcement field, you never know what may happen. Things happen in a flash. And so for us, the key focus is peace of mind. And in your case, talking specifically about your family situation where your wife stays at home. Well, with you being the primary breadwinner, what happens, right? Now, all of us carry debt, meaning that, to buy that house, you have to have a mortgage. Sometimes to pay for that car. And by the way, cars today are at this all-time high in price.
Right.
They have exceeded the last study, which actually released a few weeks ago, $47,000. That's the average price for a new vehicle in the United States.
Oh, wow.
So when you think about that, how easily would someone be able to pull out their wallet and pull out $47,000 to pay for a car? And this is, by the way, $47,000 is pre-tax. So, when you think about all that, for us, there is no better way to serve our law enforcement community, members of that really the folks that wears blue, is to provide them with that peace of mind, not just for them, but for the family members too, so that in the event that something tragic happens to them, that the family does not have to worry about this piece of the financial puzzle. So for us, that end of watch is really, it's an insurance policy that we, as the credit union, we pay for, not you. So nothing comes out of your pocket, it is on us. We cover you for up to $850,000. So it could be a combination of loans. You could have 5 car loans, plus maybe a mortgage. And so, should something happen, we take care of all of it. So in other words, the loans that you have with us, so this is only about the debt that you have with us. We will take care of that. We will cover through our effort to cover that debt so that your family members, your surviving family members, would not have to worry about that one single bit.
Right. You guys offer a wide assortment of products too, mortgages, auto loans. And I saw something specifically called it was like a law enforcement personal loan. And, we all run into different circumstances. Our paychecks vary. A lot of people think we have a fixed salary. Some months we have great overtime. Some months we don't. Some months we're at home injured on duty. So we run into those situations where we might need a little extra cash to get us through those months. And you have those products available. So I think that's great. It's no doubt that you're doing a wonderful job as a CEO of a bank that's part of the law enforcement family. And I know you're surrounded by constant law enforcement influences, especially as you divulge to us that the board's made up of people that come from our background. But how did you, where does your passion come from? You mentioned that you're not in law enforcement, but I'd imagine you have some ties to law enforcement other than your association with the bank.
Well, so let me give you a little bit of a background. During my senior year in college, while I was majoring in accounting, I actually did wanted to go into the law enforcement field. Actually, I had several interviews with the FBI. That was my interest. Wow. The one thing that kind of turned me or deterred me away from following that pursuit was the recruiter said that with you being Asian and with us at that time normalizing relationship with China, you could be good in counterintelligence. We could send you overseas. I said, wait a minute, I'm an accountant. All I want to do is deal with white collar crime. What is this overseas business and counterintelligence? So that kind of put a break to what I was thinking. And hence, I think looking back and reflecting, there's still a great deal of not just interest as well as support for law enforcement, because I think that law enforcement work is a very noble cause. It is one in which rivals up there with being teachers, being nurses, and so forth. But maybe at that time wasn't quite for me. And so my career pursuits have kind of brought me to where I am today, which certainly I have no regrets about that. But I will also share with you that my passion not just comes from my desire to help people, particularly the law enforcement community, but I also have a son that is in law enforcement. My oldest son is a police officer with the San Francisco Police Department. And there's no prouder day than the day that he graduated from the academy and sworn in as a full-fledged police officer. So I'm extremely proud of him for what he has done. I'm also proud of him in another way. He followed, Dad's footsteps, and he also has a degree in accounting as well. But he certainly is devoting his life to the police work. So that's where I got it from. But let me also share with you that because of the fact that he is a police officer, that sometimes for me, sitting here thinking about the risks that he takes on each day when he puts on that uniform, when he puts on his vests and so forth, it also makes me think about the partners that he works with, right? And what are their lives like? What in the case of your case, Aram, where your wife stays home, well, some of the folks that he works with, well, it's very similar, right? Where he goes to work and a spouse stays behind. Well, how can we make, as a financial institution, how can we make life easier for them? And so one of the products that we have developed for a number of years, and actually very proud to say that I was the father of this thought. I said, well, if they are sitting in a black and white, and then, okay, well, it's time for lunch, and oops, I forgot to go to a bank to take money out. Well, one of the things that we also offer to all of our members is an ATM surcharge rebate. Because we as a look, as a smaller financial institution, we can't, we don't have the resources to be able to put a branch on every single street corner.
Right.
Right.
So what people have in the wallet is a debit card, right, which doubles up as an ATM card. So what we do is we allow for any of our members to go to any ATM machine and pull cash out of there. Well, you may say, well, yeah, you know what, yeah, but that's already possible. I can take that card and go anywhere. But if you so think about this, it's very territorial. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, US Bank, Chase, all those, right? If you are not one of their customers, they will charge you for the privilege of taking money out from their machine.
Right.
What we do is pay you back. We rebate you for that ATM surcharge fee up to $3. So, for example, Bank of Wells Fargo charges $3. Well, hey, they charge you $3. We'll the very next day we'll give you back the $3.
All right.
And so that allows you full mobility to go anywhere. And when you have a need for cash, you can go to that ATM machine and pull out cash, and we will give you back that surcharge.
That's awesome. And no question, just talking to you, Eddie, that you have a heart for law enforcement. And I'm glad that we're able to bring up your son. I didn't have any idea that you have a son in law enforcement. So, to our listening audience, you absolutely have not only a passion, but you have a heart for law enforcement. And I think the Police Credit Union is lucky to have you as the CEO, because you brought this vision from a corporate standpoint and accounting background. So you make sense out of numbers. But what you also bring to the table is you make sense for law enforcement families. And this is coming from two family members of law enforcement. Kristen is a third generation law enforcement. Not only is she a dispatcher, her husband's a police officer. Her dad was a police officer, and her grandfather was a police officer.
Okay.
I'm sure this is just as meaningful for Kristen as it is for me and for our younger law enforcement listening audience, because the topic of today's show was talking about some of the financial pitfalls that they've gone through. Now, I know this was more of an introduction to what the bank has to offer, and I hope our listeners actually log on to the Police Credit website, because it's easy to create a membership through there.
Very user friendly.
Yeah, and it just requires a little bit of a down. I think it was a $50 or $25 to start.
25.
Yeah, 25. Really easy. So I encourage everybody to do it, because I can't think of, there is no other bank out there that will offer you this catalog of products specifically catered to law enforcement. The only thing I can think of that's close is those that have a military background. They can do the Navy Federal Credit Union, which offers very similar products. But for us, for those of us that don't have a military background, it's nice to know that the Police Credit Union exists. And so we thank you for your time for introducing some of these products to us. And
thank you.
If I may add just one more, what the next exciting product that we're releasing, which is probably going to be coming out in about another month or two, it's providing active law enforcement personnel a no down payment mortgage loan.
Wow.
Oh, that's huge.
So think about this, right? Every lender really kind of requires either 20%, but if you're not able to come up with 20% down payment, and think about this, it's California.
Yeah.
Like we don't live in Alabama or any other lower housing cost states. So in order to get into the housing market, one of the things that we are very passionate about is for law enforcement folks that want to pursue the American dream of being their own, having their own home.
Right.
This loan product would certainly help them achieve that dream of zero down payment and no private mortgage insurance required.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, that's something that's let a lot of new officers struggle with. They know, they realize when they're paying rent, they're paying somebody else's mortgage.
Absolutely.
So the natural progression is to buy their own house. But, the prices nationally, let alone in California, have skyrocketed. And, with the restrictions now with how you acquire loans, you're right. You have to come up with 10, 20%. And if you come up with anything under 20%, you're paying PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. And that's an additional cost to the house. I mean, so not only are you paying this mortgage insurance, you're paying this, you're trying to get this mortgage that's almost impossible to get. You're telling me that officers can come in with zero money down?
Yes, that's correct.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're both happy about that one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
what-
great. I wish that was around when we were first buying a
No,
house. So that's
no.
amazing.
Yeah, and that stems from looking at my cop son, right? I said,
Mhm.
well, okay, cops aren't like tech workers, right? Tech workers mysteriously have stocks and therefore valuation in their hands.
Right.
Yeah.
Police officers are, hey, well, this is what the paycheck looks like, and you want more, well, then there's overtime.
Sure.
But the ability to get that degree of income, it's a bit restricted. And so thinking about the younger police officers that for the first time in their life they wanted to buy their first home. Well, this is the plan for them. Is zero
Yeah.
down payment and zero PMI.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and if you don't have your house yet, I mean, I don't know what you're waiting for. Sign up at the Police Credit Union.
Mhm.
It's an incredible. We're incredibly honored to have you guys sponsor our podcast as well. This brings us to the end of our episode. I know we touched on the products available, but we'd like to have you back one day. Maybe you can, when we expand upon this episode where we're giving financial advice, maybe we can have you back one day and you can give us a few pointers on not just the new officers, but some of us older guys that are looking forward to retirement, maybe retirement.
Mhm.
Oh, I love to.
Awesome. Well, thanks
Yeah.
for joining us, Eddie Young. And
Thank you.
thanks for joining us and telling us your products. And we'll see you guys next time on the 911 Strong podcast. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay.